President Cyril Ramaphosa is confident that the energy crisis will be over by next year. Let's talk about that sentiment with Stellenbosch University Centre for Sustainability Transitions Co-Director, Professor Swilling. Professor Swilling, a very good evening to you. Welcome to News at Prime. So the President speaking yesterday suggesting that the crisis will be over by next year, 2024. Am I right in saying that does not necessarily mean that load shedding altogether would be over?
Yes, I think you can say that. A lot depends on what he means by 2024. If he means end of 2024, and given the significant amount of renewables coming online, it's not beyond the bounds of possibility that by the end of 2024, load shedding will have been reduced considerably.
And what has changed in the last while that had not been done, say, in the last decade and a half, that would have allowed what appear to be very quick gains towards the eradication, at least as per what government is telling us, of the problem?
It's the coming together of many factors. The one is the commitment that Andre de Ruyter made to planned maintenance. That is the planned shutting down of power stations to fix them properly. That really only properly began when he started the job. And the Minister of Electricity has maintained that commitment. And as you heard him today, he says they've actually increased the amount of power generation capacity which is on planned maintenance, because they've realized that actually is what is going to contribute significantly to improving the energy availability factor of the coal-fired power generations. But we also see a very large quantity of renewables coming online. There's 4.4 gigawatts of rooftop solar now on the rooftops of South African households and businesses, a total investment of about 65 billion rand since March last year. So that is very substantial. And then we also have the large-scale, utility-scale renewables coming online as major mines and businesses and malls and so on really go for large-scale renewables in order to ensure that energy is secure. So all of that is coming together. Improvement in maintenance, more renewables, greater efficiencies. So we see all of this coming together in a way that is starting to result in a lowering of load shedding.
And is it all a credit, shall we say, to the newly assembled team? By that I mean the new electricity minister and a fairly new, shall we say, still board at Eskom.
Yes, I mean, I think for the first time, I've argued in the past that it doesn't really matter that the Minister of Electricity doesn't have significant powers. His key role is to build a united front, to build a shared consensus about our energy transition pathway going forward. And he has succeeded in doing that. For example, he made it very, very clear that there are problems with the coal-fired power stations, whereas before the Minister of Mineral Resources and Energy used to say, no, there's plenty of energy. There's 48 gigs on the grid. Eskom just needs to flick the switch, implying that they have a hidden agenda for why they are not doing that, which later on he accused Eskom of treason. Ramaphosa hasn't done anything like that. He went around to the power stations, he came back and he said, these things have got real problems and we need lots of money to fix them. Later on he admitted, well, we don't really have the money to do that, so we do the best we can. In the meantime, to fill in the gap, we need a large amount of renewables, and he even referred to 15 gigawatts of renewables. But if you add up all of what's in the pipeline, it's about 30 gigawatts, which is a lot of renewables.
Well, there's a piece out at the moment from the team at Media 24, News 24, talking about how the passage of the Electricity Regulation Act Amendment Bill is unlikely to happen, they say, according to the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Minerals and Energy, before the sixth administration finalizes its work. They've not even held public hearings, for example, not even tabled it before Parliament, even though Cabinet basically gave it the green light in March already. How troubling is that?
It's very, very troubling. Basically, the Energy Regulation Act is absolutely crucial for a number of different reasons, but one of the key ones is setting up the transmission system operator, which will be located within the National Transmission Company of South Africa, which has been set up but is awaiting the appointment of a board. And until we have a national transmission company with a system operator, it's not going to be possible to run the grid independently from generation and raise the funds that are required to significantly upgrade the grid, because there is very limited capacity to add new generation capacity, no matter what the technology, your technology preference is. So the delay in the Energy Regulation Act is going to result in a delay in what is an absolute top priority, urgent matter for the Minister of Electricity, which is to make sure that the grid starts to get upgraded and extended.
But it may very well die before Parliament, might it not? Because at the moment, there's the ongoing public spat involving the Public Enterprises Minister, Prof Gordon, and the youth wing of the ANC, and others who've accused him of basically using measures to pass what they say is a backdoor attempt to privatize Eskom. So that debate may very well interfere with this bill actually becoming law. Possibly.
Yeah, there's lots of political agendas that are lining up against the Energy Regulation Act amendment. That is one. There's absolutely no evidence that the National Transmission Company is going to be privatized. Nobody in government thinks that that's what should happen. So it's really an ideological battering ram to discredit this reform. There are also those within the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy who may be worried that the amendment weakens the state. In reality, it does give the minister more regulatory authority, but it also creates conditions for wheeling between municipalities. It reinforces the energy market. And creates conditions for trading that are beyond the control of the state. And for some, that might feel like a threat.
And just lastly, you mentioned municipalities. How do we deal with the issue of municipal debt? I mean, it runs into the billions. Successive Eskom CEOs, boards have complained about it. Now, the electricity minister is also worried about what that is doing to the entity's ability to basically meet its objectives to A, generate power, and, for example, be able to acquire everything else that it needs in order to reach that ultimate goal. What needs to change in order to address the crisis of municipal debt?
Well, the obvious answer is what needs to change is the municipalities have to find a way to pay their debts. But in the real world, that's very unlikely. And so whether I certainly don't agree with this, but I do think that there is a certain inevitability that at some point a grand write-off is going to take place, where municipalities are going to get locked into agreements around to implement the new energy dispensation on condition they contribute in the way that they are required to financially. So I think there's going to be a whole range of deals which are essentially going to boil down to saying, play the game in future, and if you agree to do that, we will progressively write off your debt. I can't actually see another way. And nobody really wants to say that. It's extremely irresponsible to advocate, but it's very difficult to understand how it is going to be possible for many of these local governments who are already facing very, very serious fiscal pressures to pay off that gigantic amount of debt.
Professor Swilling, always good to speak to you. Thank you so much for your time on Newzroom Afrika.